Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Sydney Shutro, and I'm the Director of Volunteer Engagement at the Tennessee Commission on Aging and Disability. And I'm very excited to talk to you guys today about the new Senior Center Grant Project. Sorry, we have some background noise. Before we begin, I want to make sure you are all aware that this presentation is being recorded, and I'll be posting this publicly on the Tennessee Commission on Aging and Disabilities YouTube channel. So for those of you who may have not been able to, or those who weren't able to attend today's meeting can have this as a resource in the future, and you all as well if you need to reference back. I have placed all of you on mute, or I am about to, as best I can, as you all come in. So please be sure that you mute your mics to reduce that background noise for me. If you have questions as we go through the presentation, I encourage you all to send them into the chat box, so that way I can kind of monitor that and answer questions as they come up, but we're also going to have questions at the end as well. I will be sharing this presentation and the other grant materials in a follow-up email this afternoon, so everyone will be receiving this information. And let me mute a couple more people, and then we will go ahead and get started. Hopefully I won't have to be doing this the whole time. So it's possible. Alrighty, so here we go. The Tennessee Commission on Aging and Disability, or TCAD for short, for those of you who don't know, we often call ourselves TCAD. We received an additional $400,000 in funding for senior centers across the state through the Tennessee General Assembly. So I've cited the bill here, bill number 912, item 22. We must distribute these funds, the $400,000, by making grants on a competitive basis. So you can see on the screen here, I've cited the bill, and I've also included the link in case anyone's interested in seeing all the whole bill itself. While the grants must be competitive, we really don't want to make it difficult for you all to receive these funds. So here on the screen, for those of you who are calling in who can't see the screen, the bill states, in addition to any other funds appropriated by the provisions of this act, there is appropriated the sum of $400,000 non-recurring to the Commission on Aging and Disability for the sole purpose of making grants on a competitive basis to senior centers across the state. I do want to emphasize senior centers. I've gotten a few calls and a couple emails from individual seniors asking how to apply for this money. So this is not for individuals. This is for senior centers across the state. So I want to make that distinction as well. As I read in the appropriation bill, I really want to emphasize that this funding is non-recurring. So that means it's not guaranteed every year. So this doesn't mean that every year around this time it's going to be open for a $5,000 grant submission. We cannot guarantee that. So this is kind of consider this a one-time deal, and hopefully we'll see how it goes. So everyone who submits their application will receive the notice that's here on the screen stating that the funding that they applied for, that you all are applying for, is non-recurring. Okay, a little bit on our timeline, and then we're going to get into kind of the nitty-gritty of things. So on Monday, September 27th, we opened the application for you all to submit to receive the grant funds. Sorry, we got a lot of background noise happening. I want to make sure everybody can hear me. There we go. So that was last Monday. So the application process has been open for about a week and a half, and we've gotten a few submissions already, so that's good. Today, we're doing our information session to give you all as much information as we can. Thank you all again so much for attending. We really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll be able to answer a lot of questions today. And if you have questions in the future, I'm always available to answer those. November 5th, this is a very important day. We got about a month away. I want you all, if you have calendars, please get those out. That is going to be the deadline for you to submit a grant application. That's Friday, November 5th. A week later, on Friday, November 12th, is our anticipated date of notice of awards. That means we're going to go through all the applications, and by November 12th, if you have been chosen to receive the funding, we will notify you that you're an award recipient. Then we do have to have kind of some checks and balances, a little bit of monitoring. So I will be doing a 6-month and a 12-month check-in with you all. Now, this is not going to be a formal reporting requirement. I'm going to talk a little bit more in detail about this toward the end of the presentation, but we're not expecting any kind of narratives. We don't need financial documents, nothing formal like that. This is going to be a very simple email, phone call, just checking in, seeing how the project is going, making sure the money is being spent, and hopefully being able to showcase everyone who's received funding through multiple media outlets. So this is our timeline going forward, and now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of things. So again, if you have any questions, please feel free to type them into the chat box as we go, and I will do my best to answer those as we go along. If not, save those. We'll definitely answer every question at the end. All right, some background. We will be distributing grants to 80 different senior centers at the amount of $5,000 each. So one senior center cannot apply for 2 grants. Every senior center has the opportunity to receive one $5,000 grant. This opportunity is going to be given out to all senior centers, whether you're state funded or non-state funded. The application is going to be available in both paper and online, and we're going to look at both of those applications here in a little bit. Excuse me. Being a competitive grant, we must have some type of scoring metric or method of scoring. So in addition to information such as, the name of your center, the contact person of who's submitting the application, your project description, and things like that, just kind of your basic information, we're going to be targeting specific counties in the state. And that's part of our scoring criteria. So these targeted areas are based on the Department of Economic and Community Development. And what they do is they look at all of the states. There's multiple factors. I don't know exactly what all those factors are, but they look at every county, all 95 counties of Tennessee, and they rank them from distressed to at risk, transitional, competitive, and attainment. And you can see the point scores and the point values. There's 5 points for distressed, 4 points for at risk, 3 points for transitional, 2 points for competitive, and 1 point for attainment in those counties. And that's going to make a little more sense here in a minute when I show you a map of what your county score could potentially be. The center will also get a point for their grant goal category and an additional point if they want to achieve more than one goal. But the maximum points you can receive for grant goals is 2, no matter how many categories you choose. So we have categories such as outreach and education, routine operating expenses, capital projects like building improvements, equipment, things of that nature, and programming and activities. If what you want to do does not fall into one of those 4 categories, you can always indicate in other what your grant goal is going to be. But if it falls into one of those 4 categories, just feel to mark 1 or more of those. Again, the maximum you're going to get for grant goals is 2 points. So if you click all 4 of those, you're still only getting 2 points for that section. Lastly, the center is going to have to receive a point for each letter of support that they receive from their state representative and from their state senator. This is a requirement of the grant. We do want you all to reach out to your elected officials and get those letters of support. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit as well. So that's a maximum of 2 points as well, 1 point each for that. All of this information can also be found in the email launch for this project that I sent back on September 27th. Also, everyone should have received a packet in the mail to each senior center that we have on file. And then TCAD also did a press release talking about this funding as well. If you have not received any of those 3 communications, my email address is going to be at the end, and hopefully many of you already have that. But if you don't have any of these materials, please let me know and I will be sure that you get them. So going back just a little bit to our targeted areas. So here is a map that details the areas that we're focusing on for this project. So counties in the dark red, so the very, very dark red that indicated on our little key here as distressed, there's 9 of those counties in Tennessee, and those 9 counties provided you're going to submit an application, will automatically get 5 points in that scoring rubric. The lighter red color, kind of this maybe, I think it's lighter red. It could be like an orangish, maybe like a darker pink. I don't know. But the lighter red color, there's 30 of those counties across the state, and those counties will get 4 points on that scoring rubric when you submit your grant application. The lightest blue color, and I apologize, the light pink color is the at-risk counties, and again, there's 30 of those. The lightest blue, the transitional counties, will get 3 points in that scoring rubric, and there's 50 of those counties in Tennessee. The gray color, kind of here in the middle Tennessee area, will receive 2 points in the scoring rubric, and there's 5 counties across the state there. And then there's one county here in this darkest shade of blue, or maybe a dark gray, that will receive 1 point for that county when they submit their grant application. If you want to have a more interactive method with this map, you can click here on this link, and I'm going to send you, again, everyone, I know we've got a few other people who've just joined us. Everyone's going to get this information this afternoon in a follow-up. But you can actually go to the website, and once the map loads here, very interactive when it works. Here we go. You can click all, or you can just click a distressed county, and then those counties will pop up, and you can highlight over them to see what the county name is. Granted, you all probably know the shape of your county. I don't. So, and then you can change that to at risk, so on and so forth, and click and see which county, which level, which economic status your county falls in. That's a way you can do that a little bit more interactively. We do expect to receive more than 80 applications for this project. In the event we have multiple centers with the same score values, the determination is going to be who will receive the funding will be made by the date the application was submitted. So it's going to be more of a first come, first serve basis if we have more than 80 applications. And what that means, and that being said, we encourage you to apply early and not wait until the last minute to submit your applications if possible. So the earlier the better. We might have had a question come in. I'm going to pop that up real quick. Oh, somebody can't hear. No, I'm not able to help with that. Okay, moving on to letters of support. So you definitely need both of those letters of support, one from your state representative and one from your state senator, to submit with your application. We have tried to help you guys out a little bit by creating a draft letter that you can use if you choose. This is not a required form to use, but just a draft letter that you can use and fill in a few things to send to your representatives. So one thing would be the date. Everything's going to be addressed to our executive director, Director James Dunn. You will put in your senior center name here, your senior center name again, and then a brief description of your project. And then you'll also put in the name of your state representative and your state senator. So make sure you have 2 separate letters, one for the representative and one for the senator. Again, this is not a required template to use. So if you've already used something in the past that you've worked with your local officials in the past, feel free to use that. If you don't have anything, this was kind of our way to help not make that process as stressful. So likely, most of you know who your state senator and representative is. But for those of you who don't, let's take a quick look and see how you can find who those representatives and your senators are. So you would click this link down here, get our page to load. Okay. And then you're going to type in the address of your senior center. So this is based on the location of your senior center, not necessarily the wide range of areas that you serve. So I'm just going to do our address here at the office in Nashville, and we're going to search. And it'll pop up first who my representative is and then who my senator is. You'll also be able to see you have the email addresses for your elected officials that you can send them the information. You can also click on the picture of each representative and it'll give you even more information, their phone number, so you can give them a call, a heads up. Hey, I'm applying for a senior center grant through the Tennessee Commission on Aging and Disability for $5,000. This is what we plan to use the money for. We would really appreciate your support. If we send you a letter, would you be willing to sign that for us? And there you go. Okay, we had a question come in. If you have requested legislative support but haven't received, can you send in the request without it and later provide if received? So ideally, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, but that's a good segue question. Ideally, we want you to submit everything in one packet. So that way it's easier for everyone to track and we make sure that by November 5th, we have your full application. If it's taken a while to get that letter from your representative, I would definitely make multiple phone calls. I would also work with your local area agency on aging and disability director or your contact at the local area agency on aging and disability to see if they may be able to help in some capacity. Or even let me know and we can work with our executive director to see if he'd be able to help get that letter submitted sooner rather than later. Great question. Okie dokie. That's your letters of support. All right, the application itself. So like I mentioned before, the application will be available in both paper and electronic format. So on the screen, you'll see a picture of the paper application, and hopefully many of you, if not all of you, should have received the paper application in that packet that we mailed out last week. Ideally, electronic application is going to be a little bit faster getting to us. However, we want to make sure that we have all means of submission available for you, no matter which way you want to do it. So if you choose to mail in your application and use the paper format, the date that we receive your application is going to be the date that we have on record, not the date that you mailed it to us. So please don't mail it on November 4th because we're probably not going to get it by November 5th, that deadline. So be sure that if you're going to do everything via mail, that you get it out well in advance of that November 5th deadline. So as you can see on the screen, I know it's a little tiny and I apologize for those who are calling in, you can't really see it. But on the paper format, and it's also going to be on the electronic format we're going to look at, you have to include the name of your center, the center's address, the county. Again, this is a very critical component of the scoring process, so we need to know what county your center is located in, the person who's submitting the application. Now, this person that you list here is going to be the main contact that I'm going to keep records of and be in communication with throughout the grant process, as well as if you're awarded the funds, who I'm going to be checking in with periodically about the project. So make sure if you want it to be the director, make sure the director knows what's going on if the project involves maybe an activities coordinator. So whoever you want your main point of contact to be, make sure you put that person in there. Your grant goals. Again, this is a critical part of the scoring process. You get 1 point for marking one of the goals, and you get 2 points for marking any additional. Again, your grant goals can only be a maximum of 2 points no matter how many times you check one of those boxes. We're also going to ask for a brief project description, and this is going to be a lot easier than like the grants you have to make with the extensive narratives and budgets and all that good stuff. We are only looking for about 500 words. So doesn't have to be super detailed. If you want to go into more detail, you are welcome to do that. But we're just kind of looking for something short and sweet so we know what you're planning to spend the money on. Again, in order to submit a complete application, you must submit those letters of support from both your representative and your senator. That is a critical component of the scoring process. And lastly, what we need is a W-9 form for your center so we can submit that to our fiscal department and they can, who is assisting us with getting the payments out to award recipients. Since the W-9 is going to be for your organization, we're going to need your employer identification number or your EIN and no social security numbers. So this payment is not going to individuals. This payment is going to your senior center organization. So please don't do individuals and don't give us social security numbers. We don't want that. Speaking of your W-9 form, this is what it looks like. I'm sure many of you have seen this many times and filled out probably a couple of them. This was also included in your packet. So hopefully that's going to be fairly easy for you all to complete. Now that we looked at the paper application, let's take a peek at the electronic application. Whoops. Oh, and it is not a link. That's not good. So, yay, technical difficulties. I apologize. I could have swore that I tested all of this yesterday. There we go. Let's try that again. Normally, I'm a lot better at presenting than this. I apologize. There we go. So this is going to be very similar. Again, it's going to be the exact same information that we're asking for that paper application, but this electronic application is going to be able to get to us much faster and ensure that if you wait until that last minute, which again, we do not recommend, but if for some reason, maybe you're waiting on those letters or something, if you have to wait until that last minute, or if you submit on November 5th, the electronic version is the way we're going to get that as soon as you hit the submit button. All right, so anything with an asterisk, which is this little star here, which is literally everything, you have to complete or else you cannot submit an electronic application. So again, your name of your senior center, your address. The state is going to be a drop-down option, so you don't have to type that in. Your county is also going to be a drop-down option, so you just have to find your county and click on it. Person submitting the form, we need their name, their email address, and their phone number. I got to be able to reach them multiple different ways. Here's your grant goal section. Again, if you mark 1, that's 1 point. If you mark more than 1, I marked all 4. That's only going to get you 2 points in that scoring rubric. And then you have an opportunity to put in your project description. Again, this does not have to be lengthy, just kind of a basic overview of how you're going to spend your money. And I encourage you all to write your description in a Word document and then copy and paste it into the text box. This usually helps with typos and grammar issues that is much easier to edit in a Word document than it is in this text box. Moving on down the application, you can see that there's a letter of support section. So where you can find your local legislature, that's that website we just looked at a little while ago. You have the reference there. And then you can download that sample letter that I showed you on the presentation a little while ago as well. So you have your resources right there at your fingertips. And then you would choose the file to upload once you have your letter. That's just like how you would normally upload anything. And you would click whatever it might be, and you would open it, and it would be there for us to see as we receive your application. Lastly, there is a reference of your fiscal information, and this is the W-9 form. So that is going to have to be sent directly to me. We tried to make this form, it's called FormStack, which is the system that we use. We tried to make it secure, but we were having a little bit of difficulty with our service provider. So to make sure that everything is secure, rather than having you upload your W-9 to the application, I'm just going to send a friendly reminder as I receive those applications that I need a copy of that. Our email is secure. Our fax is secure. It's just we couldn't guarantee the security of this application, so we didn't want to risk anything by doing that. Yeah, I think we had a couple questions come in. Let me see. We are one of 5. We are one of 5 centers in the county, and we share an EIN number. How should we proceed? For each individual W-9, make sure you have that center and then the IEN. So each individual of the 5 centers need to apply if they want a grant. Will there only be one award per county regardless of the county? No. So there are multiple senior centers in multiple counties. So I know Davidson County, for example, has upwards of 5, over 5. So it's not based on the number of counties across the state, it's based on your senior center. So I believe we sent information to about 180 senior centers across the state in our 95 counties. So we are going to award per senior center, not per county. So it is possible that if there are multiple senior centers in one county, that both or all of those centers could receive the funding. Will we receive more specific information regarding how the funds can be spent? More of the breakdown on the categories. Excuse me. So one of the great things about this grant project is there's no restrictions on funds. So, I mean, short of anything illegal, we don't want you to do any of that stuff. But these are just 4 pretty broad categories. So if you wanted to do equipment for programs, you could put that in under programming. We've had some people indicate that they wanted to update their bathrooms or maybe repave their parking lot. So that would be more in capital projects. And then you would get more into the description in your text of your narrative. Again, only about 500 words. If you want to be more detailed, that's fine as well. But that's pretty much your breakdown in categories. So the funds can be spent any way you would like them to. There's no restrictions on that. Can you clarify the deadline for spending again? So what we're going to do is the deadline to submit your application is November 5th, and ideally we would like the money to be spent within a year of receiving your funds. So that's why I'm going to be doing a check-in, and I'm going to talk about this in a little bit as well, but it's good to reiterate things. I'm going to be doing a check-in in May of 2022. That's about 6 months that you've received the funding. And then I'm going to do another check-in in November of 2022, which will kind of wrap up a full year of having that funds. And we anticipate that you all will have that spent well before November of 2022, because I know a lot of what you all are applying for are very, very immediate needs. Great questions. Keep them coming. So once I receive your application, no matter which way you submit it, whether that be paper format, through our online system, if you email it to me, however you're going to submit it, I'm going to confirm with the person that you indicated on the application. So if the senior center director sends me the application, but your activities director is the person listed as submitting the form, I'm going to confirm with the person you have listed on your application. If I do not confirm with the person you indicated within 2 days, 2 business days, so if you submit on a Friday, give me at least until Tuesday. If I have not confirmed within those 2 business days of you submitting, please reach out to me directly to make sure that the application has come through. We did have another question come in. If we share one IEN number with 5,000 be split between all centers with the IEN, or can each center receive the full 5,000? It's going to be based on the senior center. So we're going to have 5 different W-9 forms from each of the different senior centers. So each center would be eligible for that $5,000. It would not have to be split between all of the centers. Okay. All right, a little bit about our check-ins. So real quick, just a couple friendly reminders again. I know I'm reiterating quite a bit of stuff, but remember your applications, again, no matter which way you decide to submit them, are due November 5th. Electronically, if you push that button on November 5th, we're going to get it on the deadline. If you put it in the mail on November 5th, we're not going to accept it because we're not going to receive it until after the deadline. Make sure if you mail it early. Please be sure you have everything that's required before you submit your applications. So that includes the application itself, the letters of support, and your W-9. Those are the things that we're looking for a complete application. We also anticipate being able to notify award recipients that they've received funding by Friday, November 12th. So we only got about a week turnaround time. So we're going to let you know as soon as we can if you're eligible or if you have been awarded the funding. Now, I will tell you, it does take time for payments to be processed here at the state level. And with holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas quickly approaching after the deadline, we really appreciate your patience, and we'll be working as quickly as we possibly can to send you your funding as fast as possible. But just so you know, we're going to let you know on the 12th. It's not going to be the 15th when you get your check in the mail. It's going to take some time for all that to process. and go through all the different levels of approval and authority that we have to here at the state. Okay, I mentioned in the timeline and a little bit throughout the presentation that I'll be doing a 6-month and a 12-month check-in for each grant recipient. So I'm going to have 80 different check-ins twice a year. Again, these check-ins will be in May and November of 2022. That's kind of roundabouts your 6 and 12-month mark. These are not like your typical grant check-ins some of you are used to. You are not expected to write any type of narrative or financial reports. This is simply going to be an email, a phone call to see how things are going. We're going to want to make sure that you're spending the money how you said you were going to spend the money in your project description. So if you say you're going to repave your parking lot, we may ask for pictures so we can share that. But if you say you're going to repave your parking lot and then all of a sudden we see that you've purchased a whole bunch of pens or promotional items for your senior center, we're going to have some questions. So I don't anticipate that happening, but just letting you know that's kind of how we're working with the check-ins, just making sure that everything's going well. We have no doubt you guys are going to do amazing work with this grant funding. We also want to be able to share what you all are doing with the Tennessee General Assembly and all the great things that have been done through the funding so they can see the value of this allocation and fingers crossed putting it in the budget in the future. This could also be a great opportunity to do some outreach and highlight your centers as well. So we would love to receive, again, pictures. If you contact any local outlets, make sure you let us know. So we can maybe come out to your senior center and see what you've done and what you've been able to do with this funding and highlight you all through our communication outlets as well. There's a question, if outreach, can you do advertising to get the word out? So that is if you're doing outreach for your program and that's part of why you're part of your project design. Yes, you can do advertising as long as that's part of your project description if outreach is going to be one of your program goals. Yes. If we have multiple senior centers, could we apply for multiple grants to fund a larger project that would benefit all our centers? No. The center, if your individual centers want to work together, that's great, but it's going to have to be, it's going to go through all the multiple centers. They have to apply individually and in their project description. So I guess I jumped the gun when I said no automatically. But if in the project description, your multiple senior centers say they're going to use, I'll have to check with our legal on that. I don't want to overstate. I don't know if any of our legal team, Charles or Caroline, are on with us right now that might be able to help out a little bit more with that. I don't believe that they are. No. I'm going to write that question down and I'm going to get back to the person who asked that question because we do want it to be funding for individual senior centers to serve their population. So I will get back to the person who asked that question here shortly. Okay. Let's see, where was I at in my notes? I apologize. Okay, so those were our check-ins. All right, some key takeaways. So that's really all the information we have on the grant project itself. So I'm going to kind of do a quick little summary here. So please feel free to add any additional questions that you have in the chat box and we'll get to those. So some key takeaways. Again, I want to hammer this home a little bit harder than probably what I should. But this funding is non-recurring, which means we cannot guarantee that this funding is going to be beyond this current opportunity. So just to make that very clear. 80 senior centers across the state are going to receive $5,000 each. That is the main goal of this project, is that we're going to help spread the wealth, so to speak, to more senior centers than what we've been able to do in the past. Since this is a competitive grant, we will be scoring each application as it comes in and using that targeted counties that we talked about, the grant goals, and the letters of support. That's basically our scoring rubric. Again, in the event multiple senior centers have the same score and we have more than 80 applications, We will look to a first come, first served basis, and the applications that were received the earliest will receive funds. So please remember to apply early if possible. We had a question come in. What if your senior citizen center is in a community building? As long as you have space in that community building and you are designated a senior center, you can apply. Good question. When submitting your application, whether that be in the mail or electronically, please be sure to have all components ready to submit. This includes the application itself, your 2 letters of support from your state senator and state representative, and your organization's W-9. And finally, the part of this whole process that honestly I'm looking forward to the most is checking in with each of the award recipients and seeing the great things that you've been able to do with this funding. So I hope I can come. That's going to be my goal in as many places as I can, is to come and physically see the products of this opportunity and brag on you all to our executive director, James Dunn, so he can tell the Tennessee General Assembly everything that this appropriation was able to accomplish to help the older adults that we serve. I'm excited about that. Another question came in, and this is a great segue because now it's time to ask questions. Can we ask for equipment like double freezer for center? Yes, equipment. Let's see, I'll go back to grant goals real quick so that we can kind of see what category that's in. Went back too far, go figure. Here we go. That would be capital projects, building improvements, and equipment. So that's kind of where that equipment category would be. And again, you can split the money in your own center. Again, this is the 5,000 will be to each individual center. But if maybe the double freezer is only going to be about $2,000, again, I don't know how much it's going to cost, but you'll have an extra $3,000 that you might be able to use for programs and activities or routine operating expenses, something along those lines. So that's how you can get that maximum 2 points in the grant goal category by using your funds in multiple different ways. Okay, this is the time for questions. So if anyone has any questions that does not have access to the chat box, you will have to unmute yourself. I believe if you're calling in, that is *6. Or if you are able to unmute yourself because you're on a computer or phone or iPad, something along those lines, you can feel free to unmute yourself now and ask any questions that you have. Can funds be used to pay instructors? Yes, that goes toward program activities. Okay, I'm hearing some noise. Does somebody have a question?
Yes, Sydney.
Yes.
This Cindy Thrasher from the McNair County Senior Center. And are you going to be sending us the electronic one pretty soon, or how are we going to receive the electronic application?
Yes, great question. So I will be sending a follow-up email this afternoon with all of the grant information and the link to the electronic application. You all should have received that as well in the initial launch email for those centers that we have email addresses for. So that may not be everyone, unfortunately. But yes, I will be sure to send another email out with that. Or if you have access to the press release that the Commission on Aging and Disability sent out, the link is also in there as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Great question.
Sydney.
Yes.
This is Connie Hopper at the Ridgely Senior Center. I have a question. First, I want to say thank you for making this grant process so simple. You've made it very simple, and I appreciate that. But my question is, after the November 12th award date, how soon after will the funds be dispersed?
We anticipate no later than the end of February 2022, but we're hoping we're going to be able to get that out a lot sooner than that. But our deadline, the very, very latest that you would receive the actual monies, the check in the mail, the latest would be the end of February 2022.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's see, we had a couple questions come in. Can funds be used to pay for another location serving our seniors in an outreach program? That one I'll have to check with legal as well, because we want to make sure that the money stays within the center. But if it's an outreach program to help serve the people of your center, I don't see why that would be a problem, but I'm going to take that back to legal and just confirm that and make sure that is an acceptable way. Like I said, we're not trying to limit the ways that you can spend your money. You can spend it on anything that's legal. But we do want to make sure that the money stays within the centers that receive the funds to be able to help the people that you serve. So I don't anticipate saying no to any of these requests, but I do want to run it by the higher ups to make sure that I'm not overstepping my bounds and saying something I'm not supposed to say. All right, let's see. I'm a new director. How do I go about updating my information with you? Great question. I will have, here is my information. So you have my phone number and my email address. Please feel free to email me or call me anytime to update any kind of information that I need about your center. I will say I'm going to be traveling quite a bit in October. So not saying I will never answer my phone, because I will answer my phone, but it's probably going to be best to email me first. And then we can either schedule a time to talk if you have more detailed questions, or I always have on my voicemail if I'm out for an extended period of time. So that way you'll know if you leave a message, it might take me a little bit longer to get back to you. But yes, any updated information any of you have, please feel free to send me in an email and I will update our records. Any other questions? I didn't even need the whole hour. Okay, what I'm going to do, thank you all again so much for attending. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, so that way if anyone has any questions that they may not want to have recorded, they will feel a little bit more open in asking those. So thank you all so much again. We are excited to receive your applications. I'm very excited to be working with all of you on this project, and I can't wait to see all the great things that the money is going to be spent on. Thank you all so much.